The galactic Veltrax Empire had ruled the stars for over 5 centuries. With thousands of warships, dozens of enslaved species, and an economy built on fear, it was unmatched in strength and confidence. Its leaders believed they had seen everything: revolts, hidden weapons, rebel attacks, but they had never encountered Earth. When humans were first discovered on the edge of a forgotten system, the Empire had no interest. They called Earth a primitive, fractured world barely out of its own atmosphere, fighting over resources and borders like children with stones. But that view changed slowly, then all at once. Within 3 decades, Earth united its governments, built orbital cities, and launched deep space vessels. By the time the Empire noticed, humans had already created something silent and dangerous in the dark, something they called the Fleet of Peace. It moved without sound, without warning, and always returned with data, not destruction. But the Empire saw this as a sign of weakness, not caution. They believed Earth feared them, so they kept pushing, first with words, then with probes, and finally with ships that entered Earth's space like uninvited guests. Earth's first message to the Veltrax Empire was calm, clear, and recorded in over 50 galactic languages: respect our boundary. We seek no war, but we will not be trespassed. The Emperor himself laughed when he heard it. He believed it was just another small species making big sounds to feel important. So, to send a message back, the Empire dispatched a warship to Earth's asteroid mining colony near the neutral zone. The humans watched from orbit as the Imperial vessel fired a plasma beam straight through the colony's core, destroying machines, cargo, and a crew of 37 miners. No survivors. No warning. Just smoke and silence. The Empire waited for retaliation but heard nothing for days. They thought Earth had backed down. What they didn't understand was that Earth wasn't planning a speech. It was preparing a demonstration. On the 7th day after the attack, an unknown vessel appeared near the Empire's border outpost of Tarvax. It had no Imperial signature, no transponder, and no communication, just a slow, steady approach. The Empire called it a bluff. They sent 2 destroyers to intercept. Within minutes, both ships vanished from sensors. No explosion. No debris. No distress signal. Just nothing. The unknown vessel remained still. Then, across every channel of the Imperial network, a message appeared in white letters on a black screen. This was the first and only warning. Panic rippled through the outer sectors. Military leaders demanded answers, but no one had any. The Empire's sensors had been useless. The enemy left no trace. Their weapons were invisible. Their presence was silent. But their power was undeniable. And the most terrifying part was that the humans still hadn't declared war. They had simply acted. Back on Earth, in the command center beneath the Atlantic Ocean, she was not interested in revenge. She was interested in justice. The mining colony had been peaceful, filled with engineers and families, not soldiers. And yet, they were gone. So now, Earth had activated Protocol Echo, an ancient code developed for one purpose: silent response. She gave no speeches. She ordered no planetary attacks. Instead, she sent 10 Ghost-class ships to the Empire's outer systems. These ships used experimental technology that bent light, confused AI, and erased sensor traces. Their mission was not to kill but to show the Empire one simple truth: Earth was not afraid. The Empire still believed it controlled the galaxy, but its ships kept disappearing. Its stations lost power. Entire communication relays went offline. And always, the same message followed. In their pride, the Veltrax thought they were fighting some rogue terrorist faction of Earth. They refused to believe that a species so young could wield such precision. But behind closed doors, fear began to grow. For the first time in centuries, their admirals had no answers. Their scientists could not explain the attacks. Their warriors, trained for traditional war, had never faced a force that didn't announce its arrival or leave behind bodies. Earth fought like no one else. It didn't threaten. It didn't shout. It simply acted with focus, clarity, and terrifying control. And then, something even more disturbing happened. A single Earthship, the same class as those responsible for the silent attacks, entered orbit above Veltrax Prime, the Empire's capital world. Alone. Unescorted. Untouched. It didn't fire. It didn't move. It just floated there, as if watching. Veltrax scrambled its planetary defense grid. They aimed hundreds of weapons at the mysterious vessel. But before they could fire, every weapon system shut down. Entire towers of data collapsed. II cores melted from within, and in the silence that followed, a human voice came through. We asked for peace. You answered with fire. This is not war. This is balance. Then the ship vanished, as if it had never existed. The Empire's citizens panicked. The Senate demanded answers. The military stood in shameful silence. They had ignored the warning. And now, Earth had made its point, not with destruction. Total, silent, intelligent control. They could have destroyed entire cities. They chose not to. And that terrified the Empire more than any bomb could. As words spread across the galaxy, smaller species, who had long lived in fear of the Veltrax Empire, began whispering Earth's name with a mix of hope and caution. Some called them protectors. Others, shadows in the stars. But everyone agreed on one thing: when the Empire provoked Earth's fleet, they unleashed something no one understood. Not a hunger for war, not a desire for conquest, but a cold, calculated will to survive. And in that survival, Earth had become a force that no empire could ignore again. The warning had been given. The warning had been ignored. And now, history had changed. After the mysterious ship appeared above Veltrax Prime and vanished without firing a single shot, the Empire's confidence started to crack. The once feared rulers of half the galaxy were now surrounded by silence, an eerie kind that whispered warnings through quiet destruction. No one could trace the human fleet, and no one knew how they disabled systems so precisely. Meetings were held behind closed doors, panic hidden behind prideful speeches. High Commander Tarvin, known for his aggression, demanded that the Empire retaliate. He believed the humans had simply tricked them with clever technology, and if crushed early, they would fold like all the lesser species before them. The Emperor, torn between tradition and survival, finally allowed a limited military action, a show of strength, to remind Earth who ruled the stars. It was not declared as war, but rather a demonstration. 10 Imperial battlecruisers were sent toward Earth's outer zones, equipped with the latest tech, strongest shields, and orders to fire only if necessary. Their mission: find the Ghost Fleet, destroy whatever they could, and leave a message. What they didn't realize was that Earth already knew they were coming. On a dark moon orbiting an abandoned gas giant, Earth's fleet command had been watching. The 10 enemy ships moved confidently, unaware they were being tracked by human AI systems embedded in asteroid fields and cloaked satellites. Admiral Viera Kane stood in the central chamber of the command station, reviewing the incoming data. She didn't smile, nor did she hesitate. She had already predicted this. Earth had given a warning, and the Empire had chosen pride over reason. Now came the consequence, not vengeance, but a lesson. The spark had been lit when the Empire destroyed the mining colony. But this provocation would turn that spark into a fire that would burn across the stars. With a single spoken command, Echo Phase 2, a chain of silent responses began. ASA, the Imperial fleet reached the edge of Earth space. Everything went quiet. Their long-range sensors failed first, followed by their comms. They couldn't contact each other, nor command, nor even their own automated systems. Lights flickered. Weapons jammed. Engines stuttered. The captains aboard each ship struggled to understand what was happening, unaware that Earth's vessels had already surrounded them using stealth drives that warped gravity and bent detection. One by one, the massive Imperial cruisers began to drift. Not destroyed, disabled. Not attacked, silenced. Earth didn't need to fire missiles. They had something better: control over the battlefield. The Empire had entered the fight with old thinking tactics from centuries of dominance. Earth had prepared for survival, not glory. and survival had forced them to evolve in ways no empire could predict. One cruiser, the Veltraxian Spear, managed to restart partial systems and fired blindly into space. The shot lit up the dark, but struck nothing. Before the crew could celebrate, the power vanished again. The lights shut off. And then, outside every viewport, human ships began to appear, 10 of them, matching the Imperial count, gliding silently, like shadows cast by distant suns. They didn't open fire. They just floated there, watching. Inside each Imperial ship, screens came to life. A single message played in calm, emotionless English. "We do not wish for war, but we're not afraid of it. You came again. We responded again. Next time, we will not hold back." Then, just as suddenly as they had arrived, the human ships vanished. And slowly, power returned to the Imperial fleet. Their engines restarted. Communications reconnected. But the message remained burned into every system, a reminder that Earth had allowed them to live. The Veltrax Empire was shaken. Never in history had an enemy surrounded and disabled 10 of their finest warships without a single casualty. It wasn't the loss of power that haunted them. It was the fact that Earth had all the power and had chosen not to use it fully. The Empire's generals, once proud and loud, now spoke in cautious tones. Even High Commander Tarvin remained silent in the next War Council. The Emperor, troubled by dreams of shadowy fleets and silent warnings, ordered a halt to all movement near Earth's sector. But it was too late. The galaxy had already noticed. Dozens of smaller civilizations, once terrified of the Empire, began asking Earth for guidance. Not protection, but wisdom. They had seen what humanity could do, and they now believed that Earth was something different, not just another species, but a force awakened by necessity. And still, Earth made no threats, claimed no land, and issued no demands. They simply said, again and again, "Stay away." But the Empire couldn't accept defeat, especially not one given without a fight. In secret, they sent a stealth drone toward Earth's moon, something small, untraceable, meant to gather information. It reached lunar orbit and began scanning. That was its first and last mistake. Within seconds, the drone was hijacked, its systems overwritten. And then, in full view of the Imperial High Command, the drone sent a live feed, not of Earth, but of a fleet buried beneath the moon's surface. Dozens, maybe hundreds, of human ships sleeping in silence, shielded and ready. They weren't waiting for orders. They were waiting for need. And now they had been seen. The Empire shut down the feed, but the image had already spread. Their worst fear had been confirmed. Earth was not preparing for war. Earth had already prepared. And the question now was not if Earth would attack, but how long the Empire could avoid making another mistake. Throughout the galaxy, the event became known as the Silent Fire, a moment when power changed hands without a single shot being fired. Earth didn't need destruction to prove strength. They used patience, precision, and presence. They had chosen to speak softly, but the weight of their silence was heavier than any Imperial threat. The spark had become a fire, but it wasn't one that burned openly. It was one that grew inside minds, planting fear, respect, and the growing belief that Earth was no longer just a new player in the galaxy. It was a warning wrapped in peace, a storm hiding in still water. And deep within the command chambers of Earth's hidden fleet, Admiral Vera Kane watched the galaxy shift, knowing that sometimes the most powerful fire was the one that made no noise at all. Whispers spread across the galaxy like wind through dry leaves. After the Empire's failed attempt to intimidate Earth, something had changed in the balance of power, though no one could describe it clearly. Reports surfaced of strange sightings in deep space, massive ships moving without sound, without light, without a trace. Some claimed they saw them near dead stars, others in asteroid belts where no signal could pass. But each story ended the same way. The ships vanished without confrontation, like ghosts in a storm. They left no trail, no debris, only a sense of something watching, something waiting. These stories, dismissed as fear or hallucination by most officials, earned a name among spacers and smugglers alike, the Phantom Fleet. Those who spoke about it too much were often found silent, their systems scrubbed clean, their ships mysteriously disabled. No one could say what the Phantom Fleet truly was, but deep in the minds of those who had seen the edge of it, there was no doubt it was human. Inside Earth's hidden command vault buried beneath the Pacific Ocean, Admiral Vera Kane stood before a three-dimensional map of the known galaxy. Red markers blinked where Imperial forces still held control, but new blue signals appeared steadily, like lights turning on in the dark. They were not Earth's colonies, nor its allies, but independent systems now refusing the Empire's orders. Some quietly severed trade routes. Others refused to send tribute. And some began building their own defense networks. What connected them all was not a treaty, but a message, a warning Earth had whispered into the dark, and the memory of the fleet that had surrounded 10 Imperial cruisers without a single shot. Vera's eyes scanned the map, her face calm but alert. The Phantom Fleet wasn't a myth. It was real. Built not to conquer but to watch, to listen, to intervene only when the fire risked spreading too far. It was Earth's silent wall, a shield hidden in shadow. Only a handful of people even knew where the fleet truly rested. Some of the ships were cloaked inside hollowed moons. Others drifted cold in nebula storms. A few orbited rogue planets, invisible to normal scans. No signal was sent unless necessary, and even then, it was in pulses that looked like radiation to anyone else. This was not just a military strategy, it was survival, engineered over decades of secrecy. Meanwhile, on the Imperial side, fear began to infect the core of their leadership. Emperor Kyle Zern sat alone in his throne chamber, surrounded by silent guards, the weight of the unknown heavier than any crown. High Commander Tarvin had gone quiet after the failed expedition. Even the spy networks that once pierced every corner of the galaxy now came back with nothing. Probes sent toward Earth went missing. Stealth drones disappeared. Listening posts heard only static. The Emperor ordered the creation of a new task force project, Flame Corps, composed of their most advanced ships and stealth hunters, equipped with energy cloaks and antimatter torpedoes. Their mission was simple: locate the Phantom Fleet, observe its movement, and strike if possible. But no one returned. Every ship sent vanished like the ones before it. No wreckage, no signal, no response. Just silence. After the fifth disappearance, even the boldest admirals hesitated. It was as if space itself had swallowed them. Far beyond the Empire's reach, in a dark part of the galaxy where stars flickered weakly and navigation was dangerous, one of Earth's ghost fleets waited. It was led by Commander Elias Runn, a calm but unforgiving strategist who had served in the Mars Defense Wars. His fleet had no names on their hulls, no markings, only sleek black designs that blended into the dark. These ships didn't patrol, they observed. When they found an Imperial scout slipping past borders or a disguised ship trying to trace Earth's trade lines, they acted. Sometimes it was enough to freeze their systems and send them home, scared. Other times, the order was simple: no return. Elias never questioned that. He knew the danger of being discovered, and he understood the importance of fear. The Phantom Fleet didn't need to fight every battle. It only needed to show up in the right moment, leave just enough evidence that they were real, and disappear again. This uncertainty was Earth's greatest weapon. Rumors of Earth's power grew, not because of what it claimed, but because of what it allowed others to believe. Alien traders said they saw human ships that could pass through solid matter. Scientists whispered that Earth had mastered gravity manipulation. One story told of a mercenary who accepted a contract to find the Phantom Fleet, only to return years later without a tongue and eyes that glowed blue. Whether true or not, these tales served a purpose: fear, respect, and doubt in the Empire's authority. Yet Earth never took credit. No official declaration, no broadcasts. Just silence and shadows. That restraint made the fear grow deeper. In the outer spiral of the galaxy, near the edge of the Andor Nebula, an Imperial carrier named Pride of Zarn picked up a signal it couldn't decode. The pattern repeated once every hour, a low-frequency pulse that resembled deep space noise. But it wasn't natural. The crew traced it to a drifting moon that had no orbit. Cautiously, they approached. What they found inside that moon was not expected: a massive hollow carved out by unknown tools, and in the center, a single ship resting quietly, like a sleeping beast. The ship didn't move. It didn't respond. But when the Imperial sensors focused on it, a message appeared across every screen on the carrier: "You found what you were not meant to see. Leave." The crew panicked, but before they could retreat, every system shut down. Life support remained, but the engines, weapons, and communications were gone. Then, without warning, the strange human ship rose from the moon, slowly turned, and disappeared into space without a sound. Moments later, the Imperial carrier powered back up. No one spoke during the return journey. When they delivered the logs, the Emperor reviewed the footage himself, his hands trembling. The Phantom Fleet wasn't a rumor anymore. It was real. And it had shown mercy for now. The galaxy, watching silently, began to shift. The Empire, once feared for its brutality, was now mocked behind closed doors. Earth had said nothing publicly, had attacked no worlds, yet it had shaken the foundations of galactic rule. Their Phantom Fleet had become more than just ships. It was a symbol of quiet strength, of limits not to be crossed, of the power that comes not from destruction, but from the choice not to destroy. As Earth watched from the shadows, preparing for what might come next, the fire that had started with a spark now burned in the hearts of those who believed in change. The Phantom Fleet was not just Earth's defense. It was Earth's answer to tyranny. The silence before the storm was always the most dangerous. The Empire had spent months trying to understand the movements of the Phantom Fleet, and though no one had succeeded in tracking its full strength, the tension across the stars had become unbearable. Even systems loyal to the Emperor began to question his control. Small rebellions sparked in the outer colonies, and independent merchants refused to carry Imperial banners. All feared one thing more than the Empire's wrath: the moment Earth would finally stop holding back. That moment came without announcement, without ceremony. A single Imperial dreadnought, the Vanguard's Pride, entered a disputed system near Earth's influence zone, claiming it for the Empire. It was meant to be a show of power, a message to Earth that the Empire would not be intimidated by phantoms. But what followed was not a negotiation or a delay. It was Earth's fury made real. The Vanguard's Pride floated near the trade lanes of the Novark Belt, its engines humming and weapons locked in standby, as if daring Earth to respond. Inside the command bridge, Admiral Rorvek, a war veteran known for his arrogance, paced with a smile. He believed humans were clever, but weak good at games, not at real war. But when a strange distortion appeared in space, followed by the blinking out of their long-range sensors, that confidence began to crack. The crew scrambled to restore visuals, but the stars themselves seemed to vanish, as if swallowed by a wave of darkness. Then, from that silence, it came a single ship blacker than the void, emerging with a calm, deliberate motion. No warning. No hail. It didn't fire a shot. It simply hovered there, facing the dreadnought like a predator measuring its prey. The Empire had seen Earth ships before, but this one was different. It was shaped like a spear, long and silent, with no visible weapons, yet every officer on the bridge felt it. This was not a scout, not a threat. This was judgment. Without waiting for the Empire's move, the human ship accelerated, not fast, but precise, aiming directly at the dreadnought. The Imperial crew tried to lock on, but their targeting systems refused to respond. Lasers fired blindly into space. Missiles launched and spiraled, confused by scrambled coordinates. The dreadnought's shields flared once, then collapsed entirely, as if crushed by a force outside physics. The ship began to shake, alarms screaming, and then the human vessel passed through the dreadnought, literally, like a ghost through solid matter. Every screen blinked red. Power dropped. Gravity reversed. Then came silence. When the systems rebooted, the crew found themselves alive, but changed. Every system wiped. Every weapon melted in place. Engines ruined. The dreadnought had been spared, but humiliated, floating dead in space. And written across the walls of the command bridge, carved as if by invisible blades, were the words, "You asked to see our fury. This is mercy." That single moment shattered the illusion of imperial strength. Earth had not simply defeated the ship, they erased its power without causing a single death. Across the galaxy, the footage leaked. No one knew how, but within hours, smugglers, traders, and even imperial citizens had seen the image of that strange black ship facing the dreadnought. Rumors swirled like wildfire. Some said it was piloted by an AI born from Earth's ancient wars. Others claimed it held no pilot, that the ship itself was alive. But what mattered most was the effect. The Empire's strongest vessel had been turned into a drifting ruin, and Earth hadn't spoken a word. That was the true fury, not noise or fire, but precision, control, and complete dominance without chaos. In Earth's Shadow Fleet Command, Admiral Vera Kane reviewed the aftermath with a stern gaze. Her message to the crew of the Phantom vessel had been clear: disable, do not destroy. She believed Earth's strength must be shown, not in blood, but in clarity. They did not want war. But if provoked, they would respond in ways no one could predict or match. Behind her stood Elias Runn, now promoted to command several new divisions. Even he was stunned by the outcome. The ship they had deployed, codenamed Whisper, was the result of secret Earth technology never tested in battle before. Powered by quantum-threaded reactors and a self-aware navigation core, Whisper was not made to kill. It was made to end fights before they began. And now, the entire galaxy had seen what happened when Earth lost patience. Back on the Empire's capital world, Emperor Kyle Zern locked himself in his private chamber for days, refusing counsel. His advisors demanded a response, but he knew the truth. Any retaliation would be suicide. Their warships could not detect Earth's ghost fleet. Their weapons had no effect. Their spies returned with madness or silence. One by one, his allies turned neutral, systems cut funding, and his own inner circle whispered of surrender. Pride was all he had left. But even that was slipping. In deep space, the human fleet grew restless. Vera knew that too much fear could backfire. If they pushed too hard, they would be seen not as protectors, but as new tyrants. So she ordered the Whisper to disappear again, to return to the void and sleep. Earth would remain silent, watching. But everyone now understood what had been revealed. Earth's fury was not fire and rage. It was precision, mercy, and the unshakable message that humanity could break you without lifting a hand. That was far more terrifying than war. The Empire had always believed that strength came from numbers, that dominance came from fear, and that submission could be forced through superior firepower. But after the encounter with Earth's Phantom fleet, after the silent humiliation of the Dreadnought in the Novark Belt, everything began to change. The stars no longer obeyed the Empire's commands, and once loyal systems stopped answering the Emperor's calls. No message came from Earth, no demands, no ultimatums, no ambassadors offering terms of surrender or threats of retaliation, only silence, cold and powerful, the kind of silence that made entire governments tremble because it meant the one with power didn't need to speak. Inside the heart of the imperial capital, Emperor Kyle Zern sat alone in his throne chamber, no longer dressed in golden armor, no longer surrounded by cheering nobles or obedient generals. He sat in silence, his face pale, his hands shaking slightly as he stared at the reports coming in from across the galaxy. Trade routes had collapsed, half his fleet had deserted or vanished, and planetary governors were either fleeing or secretly contacting Earth with pleas for peace. What terrified the Emperor most was that Earth never replied, and yet things kept changing. A cargo fleet approaching Earth's neutral space suddenly lost engine control, gently brought to a full stop, rerouted by a force it could neither detect nor resist. Pirates who raided human colonies disappeared without a trace, and those who returned spoke of black ships that blinked in and out of existence, disabling them in silence and vanishing before anyone could react. It was not war, it was something far worse, something that could not be fought or understood, and in that confusion, the structure of power began to crumble. The Council of High Command, once fierce in their loyalty to the Emperor, demanded answers, some even suggested surrender, but they were silenced quickly, too quickly, and their sudden disappearances only deepened the fear. Admiral Rorvek, the same man who had once mocked Earth's strength, now limped through a recovery ward with scars he couldn't explain, seeing phantom errors in every screen and shadow. He refused to speak of what he saw during the attack, only muttering that he'd looked into something that was not meant to be seen. Across the stars, humanity remained quiet but alert, monitoring everything, observing, calculating. Inside the hidden Earth Command, Admiral Vera Kane reviewed transmissions from crumbling systems and debated whether they should act. She knew their silence was doing more than any battle could. It was making every empire, every colony, every fleet imagine the worst. And that was the genius of it. Earth did not need to conquer. It only needed to wait. Then, the message came not from Earth, but from the Empire itself. A formal transmission, encrypted, signed by Emperor Kale Zern, marked URGENT. It was not a threat or a warning. It was a surrender. No weapons, no resistance, just a single line. We cannot match what we do not understand. We yield to peace. The council was dissolved, the Imperial military stood down, and Earth, without firing a single fatal shot, had won. But the surrender was not the end. It was the shift. Suddenly, every species, every power that had watched from the shadows rushed to realign. Old enemies of the Empire sent diplomats to Earth. Free planets offered alliances. Trade routes reformed, now under human regulation, not by force, but by trust in Earth's restraint. Humanity had shown power, yes, but also mercy, and in that balance, they became something new, guardians, not rulers. Vera Kane, wise and calm, refused the title of Supreme Commander. Instead, she proposed the formation of a galactic accord, a neutral council led by diverse races but protected by Earth's hidden reach. Even the most skeptical voices could not argue with the results. Piracy dropped by 80%, disputes were settled without fleets, and the very idea of war seemed childish. Elias Runn, now a respected leader in the new Frontier Peace Corps, often reminded others of one truth: Earth never wanted to dominate, only to be left alone, and it was only when provoked that they showed what they were capable of. That lesson became a legend, told in every academy, every senate, every shipyard. But in the deepest corners of the galaxy, where darkness still lingered and whispers of revenge stirred, some powers watched with hatred, unable to forget their pride. And Earth knew that silence was only as powerful as the patience behind it. So they watched, they prepared, not for conquest, but for balance. The Phantom Fleet remained, unseen but everywhere, a shadow over every threat. And those who thought to rise again were always reminded of the face of Earth's fury, of the war that never happened, and of the quiet shift that changed the galaxy forever. Earth had won not just a conflict, but the respect and fear of civilizations older and larger than itself. And all of it had started not with weapons, but with a warning ignored, a spark that lit a fire, a ghost that haunted fleets, and finally a surrender that marked the beginning of something greater than war, peace backed by unimaginable strength.